But in the short term, we're going to welcome uh, James Oliver to the podcast. James, welcome to Powered by Authenticity. How's it going tonight?
It's going great. It's going great. I'm excited to talk. Thanks for having me. And yeah, just excited to be here this Thursday night.
All right, well, awesome. And first up, I want to say that we got the opportunity to try your protein bar. So producer Ken is here with me tonight, and we both are. I'm a half marathoner; he's a marathoner, and we enjoy our protein bars. And we loved your. We had the peanut butter chocolate chip, right, Ken?
Yep.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Awesome. Awesome. Love to hear it.
Yeah, it was great. A lot of times I have a hard time with just like protein bars, but
Mhm.
no issue whatsoever. It was fantastic.
Yeah. One thing that I think that I've learned that I changed my perspective on is that I originally thought like, well, taste isn't that important. Like some people will if like the nutrition is good enough for the ingredients,
Yeah.
some people will prioritize that. And while that is true, the vast majority of people are like, no, it needs to needs to taste good. I need to look forward to eating it. So, yeah, we try really hard to make that true.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you again for those. They were fantastic. And how would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's James. I grew up in the Boston area. I from a family of seven total, so fairly
Wow.
big. Grew up being very like active, very outdoors. I was in the Boy Scouts. Actually, me and my three brothers, we were all Eagle Scouts. So we were kind of deep into the outdoors and just being active from a young age. I also played a ton of different sports. I was kind of a master of none. I did sailing, golf, football, tennis, lacrosse, baseball, like pretty much every sport
Oh,
you could think of. I tried, and my interest in nutrition was actually from a very young age. Like one of my earliest, most formative memories. I remember my parents were going out one night, and I was probably like 4 years old. They were going to like dinner or something, and I just remember very vividly. Um, I I don't know how it came up, but they had one of them mentioned that eating carrots improves your eyesight,
yeah.
and for whatever reason that just stuck with me. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, so if I eat a bunch of carrots, like my eyes will actually get better. And at the time, I was like, well. I thought that if you ate a bunch of carrots, you could like get 20/20 vision or supervision. Obviously, it's not quite how it works, but from a very young age, that just kind of planted the seed that like, oh, it's really cool that what you choose to consume can actually have an impact on what your body and mind are able to do. So that was just like a very that was pretty much the first thread that kind of planted the seed for where I'm at today. And yeah, it's been quite a journey from there to here, and everything's kind of come together throughout my childhood, my upbringing, the outdoors aspect, the nutrition aspect, to what I do now.
Oh, that's amazing. And where are you based out of?
So I'm based out of New York now. So my wife now, she went to school in New York, and so after a couple of years in Boston, I was like, you know what, I think it's time for a change of scenery. So I moved down to New York, and it's great. New York City is a cool place to be. A few other places like it. I like it because I kind of view it as almost like a humanities city because there aren't I can't think of really many other cities that have the both the density of people, so this many people pushed together, but also the diversity of people, because you have cities that are denser that have more people pushed together, but they're more homogeneous, and you have cities that might be more diverse but it's more spread out. But to have millions of people just shoved together on this little island is it's very interesting.
That's very cool. And what a great time to be in New York City. I mean,
Yeah,
this time of year just beautiful. So,
yeah,
uh,
100%.
well, visit the tree for me. I love that tree at Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Well, we thank you for telling us. I can't wait to talk about your pathway into nutrition and just starting your product. But first, we'd like to get to know everybody on a little bit of a personal basis. So, like a little bit of an icebreaker, and it typically is around food, actually, because we say food is a great connector. So I know when we've talked before, you let me know that you're a Patriots fan, and you're still here anyways because we look. But what's on your tailgate menu? Like, if you're going to watch a game this weekend, what's the one thing you're going to have on the tailgate?
I think the number one thing would be wings, but specifically if you've had like naked wings, so they don't have like a lot of sauce on, they don't have like a lot of buffalo or barbecue sauce. Those to me, those you can just put down a lot of them. They're just like so good. There's just like a tiny bit of seasoning on them. Yeah, they're tough to beat for me.
Well, you're speaking our language here at the podcast because I have a feeling producer Ken, hello this evening.
Hello, hello.
I think you might have something in common.
Absolutely. Wings are number one. You know, when you go in order of when you're laying out your food for the tailgate, wings just go right at the top.
Well, I'm glad I answered right then.
And I'm just going to make it the trifecta because what's a game without those wings?
Yeah.
And we'll have to stay in touch. I know you've got Stefan Diggs on your side, but we've got the mighty Josh Allen, so we'll see what happens this weekend.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. It's been just seeing the Patriots season from what it's been for the past, like to go from what we had for 20 years to then go to what we've had the last couple of years is just such like a seesaw. And it honestly kind of feels unfair that we're that we're doing as well as we are this season because we only had like there are some dynasties or some franchises that basically have like what we've had for the past couple of years, but have it for decades. And we had it for like 3 or 4 years. And now we're back in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, it's you guys are doing really well. We'll see what happens this weekend.
Yeah, we will.
Well, thank you for doing that. Like I said, we think food is a great connector amongst everyone. But what I'd like to hear now is tell us the story behind Atlas bars.
Yeah. So it's as I mentioned, it started when I was like really young. My interest in nutrition, that idea between what you consume and how it impacts your body. One of like the analogies that I used when I was a kid to think about it is I was like, well, it's cool that like if like imagine if you had a car, you were given a car like a Toyota Corolla, and just by making certain choices, you could turn that Corolla into like a Porsche. And I was like, well, that's basically what you can do with your body. Like if you choose to you're a half marathoner, Ken's a marathoner. If you make the choice to run every day, you're going to improve the engine of your body. And if you choose to eat certain things, you're going to improve how well your body works. And I always I think it stuck with me because there are so few things in life that are under your control. And to be able to make certain choices that can really change the trajectory of how you feel and how you interact with the world was a really cool idea to me. So I just kind of started educating myself on nutrition, not because I was looking to get like an official education in it, but because I was just really curious about it. Like I remember when I was 18, I was really confused because people like at that time, fat was kind of demonized. This was back in the like late 2000s, early 2010s. And I remember asking about like avocados because I was like, well, avocados are fruits, which people say are healthy, but they're also like mostly fat, which people say is unhealthy. So like, which is it? Is it that they're unhealthy because they're fat or that they're healthy because they're fruit? And there just didn't really seem to be any like clear answers on a lot of these topics. So I was just like, I just want to dig into it and try and find out for myself. So fast forward to school, to college. So I went to school in Boston area and I ended up majoring in economics. But most of my time I actually spent studying languages because I don't really know why I did this looking back, but I chose to study Arabic first. And literally the criteria that I chose was, I was like, I just want to do the most challenging language that they offer. Not necessarily because I wanted to go abroad to the Middle East or because I wanted to learn Arabic. I just wanted to challenge myself. So after doing a year of that, I realized that I actually wanted to go to China instead. So I switched to studying Mandarin. And when I was preparing to go abroad to China my junior year, I was going to be there for about 5 months. I was going to live with a Chinese family in a homestay. They didn't speak any English. And at the time I was doing a lot of training. I was probably in the gym every day. I was doing like ultra marathon training. And so I was like, well, I know that I don't quite know exactly what my diet is going to be over there, but I know it's going to be pretty different than what it is in the States.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that it's going to be like pretty like carbohydrate heavy, like a lot of rice, a lot of buns. And it definitely was. And so I was like, well, I want to like bring something with me to help just kind of like stay on track somehow. And so I was like, all right, well, it needs to be portable. It needs to be shelf stable. It needs to be convenient. It needs to have ingredients that I feel good about eating every day, and it needs to have good nutrition. And I really didn't set out to make something. I was just looking for this, and I was like, it doesn't exist. I was like, all right, I'll just figure out how to make it. So I worked with my mom to make the first couple hundred, and made those, brought them with me, and they were great. And they worked exactly how I intended to use them when I was over there. And then I got back and I had 1 year left of school. And I was like, well, I think that I know I just made this for myself, but I think if I had this kind of itch to scratch, there are probably others that also are looking for this. So I spent my last year of school kind of putting together the idea and doing the research and all the things that you need to do to start something. And I used the money that I'd made from driving Uber and landscaping and all those fun jobs that you do in college to make the initial 5,000 bars with an actual manufacturer. And I remember thinking, I was like, this is like a scary decision to make, but the worst case scenario is that I won't be able to sell any of these and I will literally just have to eat 5,000 of these. And I was like, that's honestly a great outcome because the costs that I'm making these at are like way lower than what I would be able to buy any other bars at. So I was completely fine with that. And so I graduated, and then a week later I received the bars and just started selling from there. And fast forward to today, we've now sold tens of millions of them, but it all just started basically in my college dorm room.
I love that. Well, and they say the best things are like things that if you personally need it, there's probably somebody else out there who needs that too. And to find a niche market like for I'll say quality protein bars, because there's some out there that are so full of fillers. Like it's just, you don't even know what you're eating.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That was one of the things that like, it really frustrated me because a lot of these companies, again, there's just a distinct moment where I remember like looking at the backs of wrappers. I was just standing in like a grocery store aisle, picking up different bars and looking at them. And I did it with Gatorade, and I was like, oh, Gatorade's like a nutrition company, and like they have all these athletes. I bet it's good. And I picked it up, and it says like 20 grams of protein on the front, and I turned it over, and it says like 29 grams of sugar on the back. And I was like, it's not necessarily misleading, but it's actually more accurate to call this thing a sugar bar than a protein bar, because it has almost 50% more sugar than protein in it. And it's the exact same today. They haven't changed it. I think their chocolate chip bar, but it has more sugar than a Snickers in it. And it just, I don't know, it didn't really sit right with me that companies that people trust, again, it's not misleading, but it's just kind of hiding information. Like you're depending on people to trust you because of the brand, and they do, and you're not necessarily making the best thing for them. And so I wanted to do something different. I wanted to make something that I felt good about, not only sharing with others, but consuming myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is the one thing too, is like, I know a lot of these packages, you look at them and like even the Starbucks drinks, if you look at that versus like a Coke, you're better off drinking a Coke than you are some of those bottled drinks. And so it's digging into the packaging. And that's, one thing that we did do is we are curious about the ingredients. We're like, oh, first of all, we can pronounce all of these ingredients, but they're also clean and healthy, which is just so important. Like I said, when we're trying to fuel our bodies for the next race, or you give them to, I know my daughter, she'll use them at protein bars at college because she doesn't always have time to have a meal. And you want something that you know is at least going to set them up for success. And that is something that's clean and healthy. So like I said, I love the fact that you've taken the time to look at the ingredients and care about the product that you're putting to shelf.
Yeah. I think that you would think that it's it's kind of table stakes that somebody who's making and selling a product is also somebody who believes in and consumes the product
Yeah.
themselves. But surprisingly, it's not. Surprisingly, a lot of products are just kind of put together as a way of making money, which is fine. But
Yeah.
it to me, it's a bit of a difference. You have a different philosophy, because then if you're doing that, I think the philosophy is, okay, how can I make as much money on this as possible? Whereas we use certain ingredients that are absolutely not the best decision to use if you're trying to maximize your margins. Like, we use monk fruit as a sweetener, and monk fruit as a sweetener, you don't need a lot of it, but it costs over $200 a pound. So it's extremely
Oh, wow.
expensive compared to if you were using if you're using like a high intensity artificial sweetener, it would be way less than that. But one of the reasons that we do have people that are such like long-term customers is because it is really hard to find something that not only it has to kind of thread the needle. It has to taste good, have good ingredients, have good nutrition. And the one that I didn't really appreciate until I started having others is you have to like feel good after eating it. Like, there are a lot of them that have a lot of the attributes, but then you have it and you just kind of feel it either doesn't fill you up, or you just feel a little off, like something in your
Yeah.
stomach feels weird. And unfortunately, there's a lot of them that's the case for.
Yeah, that's my problem, honestly, is I love to use protein bars, especially when I'm in full training mode, right? But so many of them have something in it, and I just don't even know what it is, but I eat it and I don't feel good. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't at all right. So it's, I'm not sure what it is. It's probably again, to your point, the quality of the ingredients and things of that nature. But I hear what you're saying on that one personally.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I think, unfortunately, the only way to really know is, I mean, there are some things that are documented, like you probably shouldn't have like 20 grams of this type of fiber, whatever. Like, you're probably going
Yeah.
to feel some discomfort, but I think for a lot, it's very individual, and so unfortunately, it is a lot of trial and error. Just like trying something, being like, okay, do I feel good? If not, probably don't have too much of that again.
Yeah. And so I'm really curious, the ability to go from kitchen table to now, 2 million bars or so sold per month. I, how long did that take? Like, what was the full, you started that first order at 5,000, but how
Yeah.
long, to scale it, and what was that process like?
Well, I think that the most important thing for scaling, and there's certainly others who might have different opinions on this, but is to have the strongest possible product, because there are a lot of, and I know this because I have been like sent a lot of these, but a lot of people focus on like, this is how you grow, this is how you market, this is how you sell. But there aren't a lot of people who focus on, this is how you make a great product. And really, making a great product is the most important part of that, because it comes before everything else. A great product that's going to dictate whether or not somebody has it and then decides to have it again. It's going to dictate whether or not somebody has it and then tells their friend about it. And all of that, it just compounds on itself, and it leads to really fast growth, as opposed to what I think a lot of people think they should do, which is you put together a product and then you go spend a bunch of money on advertisements and different growth tactics, which is fine to do. But I think that a lot of the emphasis is unfortunately put more on that side of things and less on, is what I'm making something that is genuinely valuable for people? And am I, one, making the product so that it is providing as much value to people, but two, also communicating that value so that it's kind of obvious to people what they're getting from it. So if I were to start something, or if I were advising anybody on how to kind of grow as quickly as possible, it would really be just understanding what people's pain points. It sounds so obvious and so simple, but really understanding like what problem you're solving, and then really creating and focusing on creating something that solves that problem really well, and then just clearly clearly communicates how it does that to people. And if you can do that and do it consistently, you'd be surprised at it's kind of doing less, like less is more, but just focusing on the right less.
Yeah. Well, I first of all, I think that's very true for any industry, because if you do one thing and you do it very well, then that word of mouth helps to spread. Have you thought about expanding beyond? bars? Like, have you ever thought about, oh, I should add in another product?
Yeah, it's something that's definitely crossed my mind. It's something we're working on a couple of different things right now. I think one thing that I've kind of struggled with is wanting to have a unified like umbrella that everything kind of fits cleanly under, because from my perspective as a consumer, there are a lot of companies that will create different products, but it doesn't necessarily make sense as a consumer, and you're like, wait, why is that company making, like, this company makes pizza, why are they now making like I don't know, like chewing gum? Like, it just like doesn't, it creates a little bit of like cognitive dissonance. And I think a way to solve that is by having a kind of unified architecture that
Yeah.
makes sense to a consumer. Like Apple's a good example, where they started off making computers and then they were able to go into phones, which wasn't really a thing at the time. And a lot of people thought they were going to fail because they're like, well, what do they know about making phones? But basically their architecture is like, we make beautiful technology that makes it feel like magic when you're using it. And that kind of worked perfectly when they went, and now that's enabled them to go into pretty much like any kind of technology. So now that I feel like we have a more clear vision of that, which then makes me feel like, okay, we basically like I'm giving myself permission to do this, and I didn't feel that way before.
Oh, that's great. I think that's sound advice too. It's making sure you have clear direction, understanding, to your point, the umbrella that you want to stay within, and then how do you make that grow, probably very methodically, right? Like, you don't go all in on something that's new, but yeah, that's really sound advice, I think, for everybody out there. And just as far as growing that product to scale, what was your advertising like? Did you leverage social media for the most part? Like, what was that like?
Well, I think for something like this, that's a consumable product, the best type of, if you really believe in the product and if you've done step one, which is just making a great product, the best marketing strategy is just going to be getting the product into people's mouths, particularly the people that you think are, because there's a difference between like, okay, is this product for 7-year-olds or is it for 70-year-olds? Because you don't want to just try and like sample everyone, because you could spend a bunch of time and a bunch of money on product, and you could think that, oh, this doesn't work, but maybe you're just giving it to the wrong people. So once you make a great product, really understand who it's for, who specifically it's for, and then figure out really the most cost-effective way to get it into those people's hands so they can try it. And yeah, that's for it's really like, again, it sounds very simple, but if step one is done well, people will, they will buy it again, and they will tell, and if people understand, they will buy it again and they will tell others about it. And that's the most powerful form of marketing you can have, is word of mouth. Because it's one thing if I see an ad on Instagram or hear a creator influencer talk about something, because I'm like, well, yeah, they're being paid to do this, so obviously they're saying that. But if Emily's like, hey James, you should like check out this wings place, I assume, I think it's very improbable that you're on commission from them. So I'm genuinely believe that this is a good place, and
Yeah.
she's just telling me because it's like that, it left that much of an impression on her that she wanted to share it. And so because of, like, word of mouth is just so powerful, because it's one, it's free, it's also viral. So if you tell me, then I do it, and then I tell somebody else, you kind of
Yeah.
start this whole chain. But it's also just it's so genuine and authentic, because just a person-to-person recommendation is probably like the most authentic endorsement that you can get.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think the other part of it is consistency, like consistently getting the product to hands, consistently, making sure that people are talking about it. So, I happen to agree. I think word of mouth is so much more powerful than so much other advertising that you could. It's funny, for this podcast, James, I've only ever spent $100 on advertising, and it was the worst $100 I've ever spent. Like, I wish I could get that back. Word of mouth and talking about it has really
Yeah.
been the better avenue. So I think people, genuinely want to help others as well. And so if they're excited about it, or, are like the product, they're just going to keep talking about it. So
yeah, totally. I'm curious, where did you, if you're looking to spend $100 to grow a podcast, like
yeah.
what did you decide to spend it on?
It was for somebody who said that they would do a small promotional campaign for me. And I didn't see out of it.
Yeah.
I saw less out of that than just if we're consistently pushing episodes and pushing clips and pushing just me talking about the podcast. They just, it was it was one of these things. They caught me at the right moment. I'm like, sure, I'll help you. Sure, I'll spend $100. Now I'm like, oh, I wish I had that $100.
Yeah, and I think that we're doing completely different things. I obviously have a physical product that people eat. You have a digital one that people interact with, they listen to, they watch, but the principles are the exact same. The quality of the product for me is like, does this taste good? Is it consistent? For you, it's like, is this interesting? Does it deliver value for people? But in both cases, if the product is higher quality, it's going to lead to the same thing, which is more people telling other people about it, more growth. And so, yeah, I think it can be, it's like tempting just to think, well, this just applies to whatever packaged goods, food. I don't do that. But no, as you said earlier, it does apply to literally whatever you're doing, whatever service or product you're providing. The higher quality it is, the more quickly it's going to grow organically.
Yep, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but I go back to some of my first episodes. I don't know if you had some first rounds of your products that weren't so great, but it's like, oh boy,
yeah,
how much we grow.
Yes. Yeah. But I think it's great to see that, like, looking back, because you do then get to gauge the distance that you've come, and you also have to start somewhere and then iterate from there. But yeah, as like embarrassing or just like cringy looking back at early stuff can be, it's also like, wow, I don't give myself enough credit, because I'm like, man, I guess I haven't really come that far. But then I look back at that, I'm like, wow, no, I actually have come quite a distance.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun. And it's fun to reflect on that too. Like sometimes in the moments you're like, oh boy, but it's fun to reflect.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, being out on your own, being an entrepreneur, what are some of the challenges that you feel like you've had to overcome in taking on the reins of being an entrepreneur and leading your own company?
I think the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur is also the reason that everyone wants to do it, which is you don't have somebody writing a script for you and giving that script to you. You don't have to be somewhere at a certain time. You don't have this plan laid out in front of you that, okay, if you work in this position for 2 years, you're going to be promoted. And then 2 years after that, you're going to be promoted, which is the liberating thing about being an entrepreneur, because the sky is truly the limit. But it also means that you have to figure out what kind of script you're writing for yourself, which is a very daunting and overwhelming thing to do. You truly are the master of your destiny, for better and for worse. And so I think managing that and managing your own psychology is a hard thing to do, especially if it's just yourself, because growing up in the day and age we live in, you always have really somebody telling you what to do. When you're in kindergarten all the way through college, you have a professor, you have somebody who's basically, you have a teacher who's telling you what to do, and then you work in a job and you have a boss who's telling you what to do. So assuming that you go through that traditional system and then you step out into the world, it's really the first time where you don't have somebody who's telling you what to do, and you're just kind of like, oh, I guess I have to tell myself what to do and figure out what I'm going to do. I got to figure out the path. But again, that's the kind of beautiful part about entrepreneurship as well, is that it's an incredible opportunity to create and kind of do whatever you want. So I think I don't necessarily think it's a downside, but I do think it's a challenge that has to be managed. And I think you either need to have the right constitution psychology for it, or you can learn how to have that.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I think one of the other things is learning kind of like where I need to bring somebody else in to help, because it's just beyond, I started doing payroll and I'm like, I need an accountant here. I need an attorney. Like I need these people to support. Like I feel like that's also sometimes a challenge, because especially when you're newer and starting out, to spend that money is sometimes like, oof, I don't want to let go of that revenue, but you have to kind of realize where you need to tap out
Yeah.
and call in the backup.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. As the leader of the organization, the most precious resource is your time. And so if you're, I don't know, working on it 10 hours a day and you're spending 2 of those hours doing payroll, yes, you are giving up the revenue or the money that you would otherwise keep by paying somebody to handle payroll, but you're also freeing up those 2 hours so you can focus on how to grow and how to get more revenue in. I think that's a challenging thing is kind of going from like the common word is like a scarcity mindset. Like I kind of got to hoard my acorns to I think the opposite is a growth mindset, where you're like, okay, you're looking at the upside instead of looking at the downside. You're looking at growing as opposed to conserving. And that can take some conditioning, especially depending on just your upbringing and your history. It can take some deconditioning to transition from one to the other.
100%. I'm still dealing with that, and it's a few
Yeah.
years in.
Yeah.
How about some of the biggest positives that you didn't necessarily know you'd get out of being an entrepreneur?
I think you learn a tremendous amount about yourself. And you really get to see like what you're able to do, and you're tested in a way that I think it's really hard to be tested in this way. Like I've always tried to test myself. Like I mentioned that I took Arabic and I've done ultra marathons and entrepreneurship and all of these things I've chosen to do. Nobody made me do them. I chose to do them because I wanted to basically test myself to be like, okay, let's see like what you can actually do. Let's see where the limit is for
Yeah.
yourself, how much you're able to handle. And out of all the things that I've done, entrepreneurship is definitely the most challenging, for sure. Has been the most challenging. And I think that it's just forced me to grow at a rate that would not have been possible if I had chosen a more, I guess, traditional path.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting what comes out of just the day to day, like how different life becomes when you're able to also maneuver your schedule and be able to help control. There's some fun things that you can do because of that.
Yeah, yeah. The flexibility is really nice. I mean, it obviously cuts both ways. You don't have to be at a 9 to 5 in your chair, but it usually also does not end at 5.
Yep.
So I would personally rather take that. I would rather take more hours, but I get to choose when I do them as opposed to
Yeah.
fewer hours, but it's in a very specific block of time.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. One thing I didn't ask is how big, do you have employees that help support?
Yeah, yeah. So we have altogether between folks who we work with, like fractionally and full
Yeah,
time, probably 8 to 10 people on a weekly basis that
that's
we're
great.
working with. And fortunately, it's with the tools that are available now. I was saying this to a friend the other day that it's getting easier and easier to kind of execute and do things. Just think about like editing video or audio is just so much easier than it was even a couple of years ago because of technology like AI. So execution is getting, the way that I would say it is like democratized. Like it's getting like somebody who's doesn't have a lot of money now basically has the full capabilities of like what would have been a really expensive like editing suite
Yeah.
a while ago. And that means that the kind of the direction you choose to go, the idea and the problems that you choose to solve, those are more important because there are fewer barriers on the actual like making it come to life. So that's another thing that I've been thinking about. But yeah, I think it's great that more and more people will have access to kind of forge their own way.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. It's kind of fun to see also the different careers that people are making out of just having access to some of those. I know when I was growing up, being a content creator was probably nothing that anybody ever thought was going to be a thing, but now you look at um, what people are out there doing with the tools that are low cost. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, it really is. I literally just watched one of my friends from high school, he has gotten a large following on TikTok, and I just watched a video where he basically casted a bronze statue of like the famous statue from ancient Greece of like the discus thrower, but he put Squidward from SpongeBob's face on the statue. And then he went to Greece, and it's like a full size statue that weighs like 500 pounds, cast in bronze, and he dropped it somewhere in an ocean in the Mediterranean near Greece, and then he's selling kind of miniatures of the statue for like $500 each on his site. And the last time I talked to him, he just kind of does these projects every couple months, and he'll make like a good amount of money doing these projects. But something like that, it's just so like wild, and it just absolutely, it wouldn't have been possible maybe like even 3 years ago to do that. So yeah, to your point, like you can you can really kind of like make a living doing like an infinite number of things, but it's just picking the thing and then doing it.
Yeah.
And that's hysterical because that video just came across my feed yesterday.
Really? Did you watch it?
I watched part of it.
Yeah.
My phone rang right in the middle, and I never went back to finish it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a crazy video.
Well, it blows my mind, but to your point, I mean, and what fun he's probably having in life. Like, what a different life than sitting at a desk from 9 to 5.
Yeah. And it's funny because he does also, last time I talked to him, he does have that like that job, and then he does this as, he might have actually left that job, but basically he did what I would suggest most people do, where you have kind of if you're looking to transition, you have something stable, and then while you're doing that, you work on building the other thing until the other thing can support you, so you can have a clean transition, as opposed to like, I do not think the kind of like burn the boats advice where you just like go cold turkey and just like go all in. I do not think that is the best advice, because it just applies this like it puts you in this fight or flight mode where you're like, I need this to work, or else I won't be able to pay the bills. And that's not the best headspace to be in if you're looking to create, because it puts you in this kind of like fear state.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that interesting because like, and I think you mentioned it before, you did Uber, like you did things that were necessary to build up enough to be able to launch it. So that's also great advice. And yeah, I think one other thing that I've heard people say is that if you're thinking about doing something and it's a little bit outside of what your normal job is, go find another job in like the direction that you want to jump, because that's just all that experience helping to launch what you want to become.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Just move like one step closer to that thing. And also just find out, I think like I'm definitely guilty of this, but I know from talking to a lot of people that a lot of people struggle with this, where you have an idea and you're like, well, I would do this if X, Y, Z. And it's, for a lot of things, it's surprisingly easy to just test something instead of like thinking on it and sitting on it for years. Just like test it and just see, like, do I actually like doing this? Like if you're like, I want to be like a chef, then I don't know, just go like try getting a shift somewhere as a chef, and like, do you actually like it? And you might just find in like a weekend, like, oh, I actually don't really like doing that. But then you can just move on to the next thing. So test it and learn quickly, so that you don't spend precious time in your life just kind of like sitting and just not really moving forward.
Yep. Also very true for those who are in college, because my daughter just thought she wanted to be a teacher. She went into the classroom the first like semester of college and was like, nope. We saved a lot of money in college education. Well, for that. Now she's moving on to something probably more expensive, but that's fine. She's happy.
Yeah, I think that's great. I remember my dad was a doctor, and I remember being like confused by people who and like impressed by people who knew from like the age of 18 that they were going to be a doctor. Because I just remember thinking like, man, what if because you don't actually do what a doctor does until you're like 31, 32. So I was like, what if you go through all that schooling and then you get there and you're like, I don't like this. But then you're like, you've put so much into it that you just kind of have to keep going forward because of like inertia. But I just remember being very afraid of that outcome. And I was like, I would be so just like bummed if I put in like 14 years of schooling and then I started doing it and I was like, I don't really like this. But for that's kind of hard to test though, because they don't just unfortunately let you walk into a surgery room and start doing surgery.
Well, we hope not, anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, great advice. Well, what's one thing that you want to be sure that our listeners know about yourself, your Atlas Bars company, just anything in general? What's something you want to make sure everybody knows?
For Atlas, I think one thing that's cool that we've done recently is we actually did a clinical study on it, and I think it's the first product of its kind that has actual clinical research that's done on it. A lot of products they'll have like ingredients in there, and the ingredients themselves have been studied. So whether it's, I don't know, some like magnesium or caffeine, and they'll say like this has been shown to XYZ, but we paid to have it done on the product itself, and it was cool because what we showed definitively is that the flavor you had, the peanut butter chocolate chip, it had virtually no impact on blood sugar response, which is really cool because that's a big problem for a lot of people, regulating blood sugar. The inability to do so has a lot of relations with type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. So I suspected that was going to be the case, but it was really cool to actually do the research and confirm that. So I was excited about that, and we're working on incorporating that more into our kind of brand moving forward.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good to know. I know my one niece is diabetic, and it's so sad when she eats something and it just spikes her, and she just, some of those effects are just so awful to watch somebody to go through. That it's nice. It's also nice to know that you care enough about the product to see what it does to somebody who may need to have that information before purchase. Like, I think that's just showing that you care about the product and what you're doing.
Yeah, I honestly, I might like care too much about the product, just in terms of like the lengths that we go to try and do the right thing and just provide a really high quality product for consumers. But yeah, I'm glad that we were able to do that. I do know that we have we have some customers who are actually they're epileptic diabetics. So if their blood sugar gets too high, they go into epileptic shock, which is obviously not good. So I kind of suspected that the product had that ability, but until we actually did the research on it, we weren't able to kind of conclude that definitively. But now we are, so I was excited about that.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Well, how can we help you? How can the Powered by Authenticity team help?
Honestly, I think you already have. Just having this conversation, letting me kind of share my story, share a little bit about Atlas and my background and my favorite tailgating dish. I feel like you already have.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and like I said, we love the product, and so we were, it's really easy for us to talk about. So we're happy to keep sharing that message as well. Especially, I hate to say it, but it's getting into spring half marathon training time.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy because we're not even at the turn of the year yet.
Nope, not yet, but
Yeah.
it's about time to think about. I've got one March 1st, so time to start
Wow,
thinking.
that's like barely even out of winter, but you're jumping on early.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in search of 100-miler towards the end of the year this year. I dipped my toe into ultras a couple of years ago, and now I'm looking for the next one.
Like towards the end of the year, meaning in like the next 19 days, end of the year, or
No. Probably next fall. I'm looking.
Oh, okay. Well, the great thing is that sport has like really. I feel like people have just moved upstream. They've moved from like marathons upwards to ultra. So there's been a huge amount of growth. And there's one of the reasons why I like doing that is that the courses that you can do are just so cool. You can just go to like, I'm actually looking at doing like a 50 miler in the Colorado desert in April. And it's just like really cool just to be able to run through the different landscapes that you can do. So that's awesome. 100 that's no easy feat.
Yeah, I did a 50 a couple of years ago. That was a loop of one of the Finger Lakes in this area, and it was a great course. It was all road, oddly, but it was a really nice view the whole time, and everything very well supported, very laid back. great.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I found that the hardest part for myself as the miles get longer are making my stomach cooperate, because it's hard to your body is not meant to like go for 24 hours while digesting while you're moving. And so yeah, that's the challenge. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are usually a good fallback for me.
Yep. Peanut butter and jellies and bananas.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I tried. I remember I did one where I had like, I was having like the goos, the gels, and I had like 14 or so in the day, because I was like timing it out like X amount, whatever, every 45 minutes or so. And you get to the point where even if you're like hungry, your body is just like, I'm not having another one of those. It's I don't even know what, like your palate just rejects it. It's just like, nope, we're not putting another one of those things down.
Well, I do believe Ken at the Buffalo Marathon this past year had tapped out on goos, and just as he had done that, somebody handed him a beer.
Yeah, about mile 20, I timed out all my goos perfectly, and then the last one just didn't set right. I used it in all training and everything, no problems, but something wasn't right there, and somebody was handing out blue light on the course, and
Nice.
I was just, I'm like, this could either be the worst decision I ever made, or it'll work fine. And it was like ginger ale when you have the flu, you know.
I'll have to try that. I've never tried that before. I've heard of others who've gotten like, especially if you get like towards the end and your body is just like, I'll just take whatever. I've heard that the little bit of a buzz can help ebb some of the soreness too at that point.
Just helps you get across that finish, whatever it takes at that point.
Yeah. I will say that last mile was my best split of the entire marathon.
Wow. Maybe you stumbled on something, Ken.
Maybe.
New type of performance nutrition.
There we go. Oh, can you do a beer flavored bar?
You could do that. Yeah, you definitely could do that.
Well, thank you for being here tonight, James. This has just been such a great conversation. And, I think there's so much good information, whether you're in product or service or digital, that you've given us to think about as well. To your point, I love the discussion points around quality product first, can let people talk about it and it will kind of find its way out. And I just think that's sometimes people don't put enough of a value on that piece. And I loved hearing your perspective on that. So thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was just a pleasure to talk, and I hope it's a good game. I won't say anything more than I hope it's a good game this Sunday.
Yeah, and I think they're predicting snow, so it could be a snow game too. But yeah, well, we'll see what happens on Sunday. But producer Ken, thanks for being here tonight.
You got it.
And we want to thank our location sponsor. So James, I'm actually in a art center, so I've got the art behind me, and they have a podcast studio, so they let us come in and use the facility through a grant. So it's really nice here.
Awesome.
Yeah. But again, thank you so much for being on the show. I've appreciated the conversation and really have enjoyed getting to know you through having you on, and stay in touch. I'd love to stay connected and keep chatting.
Yeah, I absolutely will. Again, I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great evening, and thank you so much for being on tonight.
Yep. Thanks.